of crime or decriminalization of possession of marijuana. So, Mr. President, I vote aye.
Senator Montgomery to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator May to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. People who look like me, or, well, younger than me mostly, use marijuana all the time with no adverse legal consequences. It is way past time that we stop using our legal system as a proxy for locking up young men of color. And I applaud Senator Bailey for putting the justice back in our criminal justice system and being such a strong advocate for this cause. I vote aye.
Senator May to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Savino to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really want to thank Senator Bailey for the passage of this bill, and I want to particularly thank Senator Krueger for working alongside us diligently to try and bring a full, complete package of legalization of adult-use marijuana, a hemp program, and the expansion of medical. We're not quite there, but I want people to think about this. Today, June 20th of 2019, is the 5th anniversary of the date that this body, joining the Assembly, passed the medical marijuana statute, the Compassionate Care Act. For 5 years, we've had legal marijuana for a certain group of people in our state because we recognized, and rightfully so, that marijuana has true value, unlike the federal government that says that there's no value. We knew it because we understand how important it was for patients. It provides treatment alternatives. And over the 5 years, we have added to that program. Some of those additions were done by people who voted against the bill originally because they see the value of marijuana. So here we have the schizophrenic approach. It's illegal if you want to use it for adult purposes, but we accept it if you want to use it for medicinal purposes. It's the most bizarre example of cognitive dissonance that I've ever seen when it comes to drug policy. 33 states plus the District of Columbia have legal marijuana in one way, shape, or form. 11 states and counting have adult use. We will get there. And part of this process is recognizing that we should not be criminalizing people for the use of it. I don't smoke marijuana. I have in the past. I don't anymore, but when I was young. I know a lot of people that do, and quite honestly, none of them look like Jamal Bailey or Brian Benjamin. They all look like me and Tim Kennedy. And unfortunately, people who look like me and Tim Kennedy get treated very differently than people who look like Jamal Bailey. That's what we're doing today. So this is one step on the path. We will get there. It's the right thing to do. I vote aye.
Senator Savino to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Myrie to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we are not legalizing. I do believe that we will get there one day. I believe that this is, in fact, the first step. But I wanted to rise to thank the sponsor, Senator Bailey, for his work on this. Also to the other senators who have been tirelessly working on this as well. I just want to say that any lover of law and order should love decriminalization. This is a law that has been disproportionately enforced. People who are committing the same exact act are being prosecuted at completely different levels. So if you love law and order, you should be about applying the law in an equal way. Today, we are saying that if you are a person of color, if you are a young person, that you will not be treated differently because you are young and because you are black. This means so much to the communities that we represent. There will be thousands of people that would be affected by this law as soon as it is enforced. And so I really stand proudly voting today in the affirmative for what I believe to be a truly historic piece of legislation. Thank you.
Senator Myrie to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Sepulveda to explain his vote.
For allowing me to explain my vote. Firstly, I want to thank Senator Jamal Bailey, who not only with this bill, but has worked so diligently to change the criminal justice system in the state, and he deserves a lot of the credit for that. So thank you, Senator Bailey, for a great job. Now, this history, the story about decriminalization reminds me of when I was a college student on Long Island. And when I would go into the dorms, the most consumption I ever saw of marijuana was at these college dorms. Everyone at that time at Hofstra University was getting high. But the kids there looked like Diane Savino. They were a lot better looking than Senator Kennedy, but they resembled him. Some of them looked like Senator Flanagan. But they were kids that do not resemble the communities that I live in. So I would see these kids consuming marijuana at such a high rate, but none of them would get arrested. They were shielded in their college dorms. These are middle class and wealthy kids. But yet when I go to my community, I see the same kids around the same age that look more like me and look more like Senator Jamal Bailey getting arrested, going through the criminal justice system, getting a scarlet letter. They couldn't get jobs and they couldn't get scholarships to attend the same university that I was attending, where these wealthy kids, these middle-class kids, could go and have their parents pay for college, but these kids who needed scholarships couldn't get scholarships because of potential marijuana conviction. So today, we say no more of that. Today, we bring justice to communities of color, and today, I proudly vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Senator Sepulveda to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Kennedy to explain his vote.
First of all, let me start by thanking this bill's sponsor, Senator Bailey, for his diligence, his focus, and his command of the issue. He has been driving this initiative forward for far too long, and today, finally, we're seeing justice done. I just want to mention a couple of things. Number one, I'm looking forward to getting back to Staten Island very soon to see my friend Diane Savino and all the beautiful people on Staten Island. And I'm going to be in the Bronx with my son next week, down in the city, celebrating. Beautiful people in the Bronx. No matter what we look like, I just want to go on record here in this chamber, you're all beautiful to me. All right? Democrat and Republican. Ladies and gentlemen. But unfortunately, the law, Mr. President, has not been fair, regardless of what people look like. There's been many disparities in the law. The laws of this land, not just in New York State as they exist today, but in our country, in the greatest country in the history of the world, are wrong. The laws of the land as it pertains to cannabis and marijuana that are far too old and archaic are in need of change. They are based in racist issues of the past. The criminalization of marijuana, the fact that at a federal level, it being on the highest level of scale of being illegal, it's just wrong. New York State needs to do the right thing. And too many individuals have been hurt by the laws of the United States and the laws of the state of New York. This bill today, giving individuals justice once and for all, it's about time. With that, Mr. President, I vote aye. And I thank again the bill sponsor, Senator Bailey, for his efforts in making this happen.
Senator Kennedy to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Flanagan to explain his vote. Senator Lanza to explain his vote.
The sponsor was going to be the only speaker, but there have been a lot of speakers. So, you know, I have two beliefs concerning this issue that are actually exclusive of each other. It's that difficult. On the one hand, I don't think we ought to be promoting the use of marijuana throughout the state. I think that's a bad policy. On the other hand, I don't think anybody should go to jail for smoking pot. And that's what makes this very difficult. And the fact that there is unequal enforcement of the law in the book now is wrong. That is an injustice. But if that were the only problem, then the solution would be to arrest more white people. And that's not I think what's happening here, I've heard a lot of talk, but nobody's talking about whether or not this is good for you or bad for you. A couple of months ago, I raised some questions. I haven't had those answers. You know, the first bill, recreational marijuana, that Senator Kruger carries, I think is better than this, because it says we're going to make it legal for adults, 21 and older. This one, decriminalization, legalizing, semantics. Here's what this says. 2 ounces. It's about 180 marijuana cigarettes. That's legal now. There's a fine, $200, which is about $1 a cigarette. It's like a tax. So we're taxing it. The difference between this law and Senator Kruger's law is that a 13-year-old can walk around with 180 marijuana cigarettes, a 14-year-old can walk around with 180 marijuana cigarettes, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. And I don't think that's good for us. And the questions I had was, if more people start smoking pot, especially 13, 14, studies say young children smoke marijuana, they do worse in school. It affects their IQ. All the things we do to foster education in the state, it's not what we want. I don't want my children doing this. I don't want your children doing this. Right now, the state is saying it's okay, do it.
Senator Lanza.
It's just a tax.
Senator Lanza, how do you vote?
Cancer, road safety.
Senator Lanza.
You know, there was latitude. There weren't going to be speakers. We said we'd lay the bill
Well,
aside.
we said 2 minutes. I said I would be strictly
Well, the
enforcing
2 minutes
that.
came in halfway through.
No, it did not, Senator
And if you
Lanza.
want to start laying bills aside, we could do that.
You didn't do that. Senator Lanza, how do you vote? Please. I said specifically we were going to enforce the 2-minute rule.
They say no cigarettes, no vaping, can't smoke in the
Senator
park.
Lanza.
This is going to hurt people. This is going to hurt
Senator
people.
Janaris. Senator Janaris.
Mr. President, we were enforcing the 2-minute rule throughout this whole week. We did it on our own members yesterday. Let's all abide by the same rules. Thank you.
Senator Lanza to be recorded in the negative. Senator Flanagan to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, this is the type of issue, again, everybody takes this incredibly seriously. Senator Bailey, in spite of the fact that he's still relatively new here, he's got a lot of experience, and I respect his opinion and his judgment. And the same for some of our veteran colleagues, especially Senator Savino and Senator Kruger and Senator Montgomery. I concur with Senator Lanza, and I'll try and be as concise as possible. I think he raises legitimate issues of public policy, of health policy, of criminal procedure, criminal law, how we govern as a society, and I think of this as a parent as well. He's right. Unfortunately, in this case, he is right. I took a quick study right before I started here. Basically, 1 ounce is the equivalent of about 80 to 90 joints. That's not casual use. And if it's up to 2 ounces and you're only going to get a fine, we're setting what we believe to be a bad precedent. I agree with the senator that an unequal application of the law is an injustice, and that needs to be dealt with. And the other part is looking at the sponsor's memo. If I'm off only because I'm going based on what was in the sponsor's memo, suggesting that there are potentially 600,000 people, and that's right in the memo, that could be looking for vacating of their record and expungement of those records. There are a lot of reasons why people have those type of records. We, I think in our conference, while we absolutely take these issues incredibly seriously, we think that's too draconian a shift in public policy to vacate and expunge all of those records. I wish there had been more deliberation because a lot of this wasn't discussed. There's a lot of talk about hemp and medical marijuana and recreational use for people who are 21 and over. I have grave concerns as an elected official that doing this is not productive for the state of New York and the people that we represent. I think I can say I speak fairly on behalf of the members of our conference, and as a result of that, I will join Senator Lanza and my colleagues in voting no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Flanagan to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar number 1839, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Amador, Antonacci, Boyle, Felder, Flanagan, Funky, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jacobs, Jordan, Lanza, Laval, Little, O'Mara, Ort, Ranzenhofer, Ritchie, Robot, Sereno, Seward, and Tedisco. Ayes 39, nays 23.
The bill is passed.